So welcome back. Welcome to another episode of The Outsider's Journey. I'm here with my good friend, Pardeep, and we're back again for another episode just to give you another taste of pretty much this little narrative we're building for you as for two guys trying to make a movie or film here in Leicester, England, and our journey of trying to make that so far. And by film, we mean a feature film, not like a YouTube film. Hey, YouTube films are great. I've seen a lot of great YouTube films, but this is our journey of trying.
We've done some.
Exactly.
Some short films. They did okay.
They did okay.
Yeah.
So this is our journey of trying to make a feature film, like a full-blown feature film, with a premiere and everything. The ones you see on TV. Here from a region that isn't so synonymous with filmmaking, even though there was a massive and thriving and vibrant filmmaking. Scene here.
Strange. There's very little that actually gets made here, but there's so many people into film here.
Exactly.
The people that we've met, people that we've worked with. There's a lot of stuff going on here, but it very rarely actually makes it to that point where people from outside can watch it.
That's really one of the reasons we're so determined to try and get this out there. We know that there are so many amazing filmmakers. We know there's so many amazing stories from this part of the world. And I guess everyone from their part of the world will say that. But we feel very passionately about this film, and we've been trying to get it to screen for, I guess, maybe 8 years now. And this is our journey of trying to take it through that. So, yeah, let's get started. So, Pardeep.
Yeah.
Before this episode started, I was just actually thinking about being young. Remember when we were young? I know
that was a while ago.
That was a while. There's something about being young that that makes you forget the future. When you were a kid, did you worry about things like mortgage and electricity?
No, you thought there was a million years away and you're not going to have to worry about this anytime soon, and then blink and you grow up and suddenly you're dealing with this kind of stuff. You're dealing with work, taxes, car breaks down, you got to get it fixed.
Exactly.
All that stuff.
You worry about the little things. From my childhood, I remember the things that really got me excited, like where I was going to play that weekend, or whose friend's house I was going to go to
playing
for
football.
Sleepover.
Yeah,
but
gotta go out after school, play some football. That's what we used to do.
Constant was for all soccer. If you're so inclined.
Nah, it's got to be football.
Okay,
it's got to be football.
Yes. So I know that's sacrilege to call it anything else. But yes, football was it was a sport that that taught us. It taught us so many things. It taught us to love. It taught us heartbreak. It taught it taught us so many things.
Teamwork,
friendship,
overcoming difficult times.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can live your life like a movie on a football pitch, and that was us. As kids, who didn't love football? It's such a global sport, and I know it's the whole American thing. There's an argument there with the pattern and American football. I won't go into that because that's a rabbit hole, if you will.
Maybe that's a different podcast.
Exactly. So the one thing football taught us was to always believe in our roots and to always have that hope, and it took us back to our foundations. And for me, that sort of represents our journey with Sing Number 7. If you think about it, our journey was all about trying to hold on to hope, hold on to our dreams, especially when it came to not just playing football, but supporting a football team. Now, supporting a football team is, especially the way football, we live in England, and, the most popular league is the Premier League, obviously. And, as fans of two teams that live in hope, football really gave us, is really part of that.
I think that's
emotional
pretty much any team. As any fan of any team, there's that element of hope always.
Exactly.
Maybe apart from Man City.
I was just going to say that.
When everything just gets given your way.
Any fan of any team that's not Manchester City, you live in hope for anything else.
Yeah.
And that's what we've had a lot with Sing Number 7. We've had to live in hope, and it's allowed us to really, but we think that hope is really based on having the right foundations and building this project with, with the right people and working with people that you know have been with you from the beginning. So this takes us back to, the last episode when we spoke about not being on this journey alone and the right foundation and going back to the foundations of this project. So we want to talk about in this episode 2 people that have been part of this project effectively. I mean, dare I say it, from its beginning.
Right from the beginning.
Yeah.
In the first year.
Yeah, and those 2 people are Amreek, or Micka, as he's also known, and Charles. And these are 2 guys who have been on this journey with us. They've been part of this little rebel alliance of ours right from the start. And we wanted to dedicate an episode to not just introducing them, letting you know more about who they are, but we'll also give you more about, our journey, where our journey how our journey has continued from where we've been. So, Pardeep, why don't you talk about your first earliest memories with Amreek?
So we actually met at the same place where me and you met, working in Curry's,
Wow,
of all places.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's where I got to know him. And it was, I think, a good few years before you walked into the store for the first time. So I was, I don't know, maybe 19, 20 years old. He was already there. And that's where I got to know him. And it was the same thing with Charles. Like, we all got to know each other in this one place.
Wow.
But just at different times. And I think of our group, you were the last one to actually to join. You walked in. I don't even know what year it was now. It was a long time ago.
2017.
Yeah, it was right at the start when I actually first started writing the film. That's when you came in. But I knew Amreek from way before that.
Yeah.
So even before, I think, when I was just first talking about the idea of this film, like even being a thing, he was already there. And same thing with Charles.
Yeah.
So I got to know those guys all the way back then. I was 19, 20 years old. We got to know each other at work, and we've been friends ever since.
Wow, that's amazing. I didn't actually know that. I didn't know that Curry's PC World, again, Curry's, we're doing, it's like we're doing a sponsorship for Curry's right now because we keep mentioning Curry's. But it was basically the place where you met our entire team.
Pretty much everyone, apart from of course, the producer that we mentioned.
Yeah.
In the last episode. Yeah, like the core team, like the beginning of it, we all met there.
Exactly. It goes to show you how, good friends, the right foundation. We wouldn't have it any other way. I didn't know, Curry's was pretty much the connector for effectively the 4 of us, excluding our producer. So that's absolutely amazing. I didn't know that. So in terms of meeting Charles and Amreek, what were the things that you found as a counterpoint in them as 2 creatives that could help develop this story? What was it that you saw that made you think they could be a great part of this endeavor?
So it was Amreek who I believe I told first, even before Charles. And with him, he's very enthusiastic. He's an ideas guy. And as soon as I explained to him and how I wanted it to kind of go, I mean, he was there, he was up for it. And he was like, this is a story that needs to be told. And then he had some ideas that he threw in there as well about certain things that could happen in there, because of course, being a British Asian from Leicester, he knows people who went through a similar sort of thing.
So he was able to carry you that incredible realism and balance based on real stories that you could infuse into the narrative.
Yeah, of course. Like, Leicester's one of those places where people seem to just be connected to everyone somehow. Yeah, within Leicester. And so he knows a lot of people who went through similar things, even if it's outside of football, whether it was different sports, whether it was work. He's a guy that's lived life. He's experienced things firsthand. He's seen things firsthand. So it was good getting his input. Yeah. And it was a similar thing with Charles. Charles is actually an actor. As you know, he's done a lot of stuff out there. He's also written a few things. Yeah. So as a fellow creative, it was nice to just share the idea with him. Yeah. To see what he thought of it. And one thing I didn't know is he experienced this himself because he's actually Greek.
Yes.
So he went through a similar thing himself where he also felt like he wasn't really given a fair shot. Yeah. There was many reasons for that. I remember speaking to him about. So as soon as I explained the idea to him, of course, he showed a lot of of passion for it, and he really understood.
Yeah. So you might not get it from a guy with a name Charles Hulme, but yeah, Charles is Greek-Cypriot, I believe. And he has a massive, family and a great background and culture. So from being someone from that background, the story sort of resonated with him because he also understood what it was like to go through adversity, to try and find a place in a world that sometimes feels one-dimensional and toned towards a certain subset of people. So it was really, really great for us to meet these two individuals, Amreek and Charles. But what's also fascinating about Charles, because when I first met Charles and we just got to talking, I met Charles again through Pardeep. I think the first time I met Charles was when we shot the concept trailer.
Was that the first time you met Charles?
That was the first time I met Charles in person, if you think about it. Because you and I planned the concept trailer, and obviously you introduced us via WhatsApp, and we had all of that. But I think the first time I physically met Charles, face to face, was during the concept trailer. And we'll put some shots of Charles in the concept trailer. He was part of the concept trailer. He's set to play a key supporting character in the film. So that was how I met Charles on set of us when we were shooting that concept trailer that went on to got us some great national press and media attention. And for me, just having that chat with Charles was really fascinating because what I did know, and what another really fascinating part about Charles is that he's been an extra in some really iconic films.
He has. He's done a lot of stuff. Everything he has.
And we can name them because they're in the public domain. They're everywhere. I mean, he was an extra in X-Men, I believe.
Fast and Furious 5, I think.
Yeah, Fast and Furious 5.
Yeah.
I believe one of the Batman movies, Christopher Nolan's Batman. I believe he was. He might have been an extra in that.
Yeah.
So he's been an extra in a lot of iconic movies.
Was he also in Gladiator?
I'm not sure.
Or a film like Gladiator?
He was in one of these. He's been an extra in some iconic films. And when you think about extras, they're just fodder for the camera. You see them walking around, but Charles,
it's a nice experience. I've done it a few times.
Yeah.
Not for anything of films of that size.
Yeah.
It is a nice experience just to be around the action.
That was one of the fascinating things I got to find out about Charles when I first met him. But yeah, he's been an extra on some really cool films like Fast and Furious, and just really, really, and one of the X-Men, the initial X-Men franchise films. So it was really cool to see someone, go through his career as an actor and as an aspiring actor. And Charles has gone on to do some really great, short films and some independent film projects. And just like Pardeep, I guess he had that understanding of what it took to be a working actor, what it took to try and, get your foot in the door. And a lot of actors understand that because people say, actors are a dime a dozen, but there are a lot of actors are simply trying to find their place in the industry. They're simply looking for an opportunity to showcase their art form and showcase, what they do best. And it was really what drew me to Pardeep and to Charles. And like Pardeep has said, these two guys have been part of this project for, since its inception.
Yeah,
and that
much. Yeah,
and that really just gave us that ability to just kick on and get the project.
I think in film, especially one that's this size, you need to find the right people because you can't do it yourself.
Yeah.
It's just not possible. You need to have a team. We started off with a small team, and even then it was difficult.
Yeah.
Because of the amount of stuff that needs to be done.
Yes.
So it's very, very important to find the right people to be a part of your project. To help you get there. Yeah, exactly. It's got to be the right people. You don't want to bring someone in just for the sake of bringing someone in. It's got to be the right people so you all move in the right direction.
Absolutely. So that's where we were. And, you got Amreek, you've got Charles, and of course, our producer on board altogether. So you could see now this little team of ours is starting to form. And I guess this is the core nucleus of the Sing Number 7 team, and you've got myself, you got Pardeep, you got Amreek and Charles, and our producer. So 5 of us, I believe, in total at this point. And we thought we're building a little bit of a roster here, which is great. You got Charles, who is an experienced actor. He's actually done some line producing as well. So he had that experience of being able to put together.
He's also done, I think he's done like lighting, a bit of set design. He's done a bit of everything.
He's done a bit of everything.
So he's got knowledge in what
else is, for us was an amazing jack of all trades in terms of understanding what it took to put a set together, understanding what it took to build a production and gather a crew.
Even budgeting.
Exactly.
He was the guy initially that put together the budget because he knew how to...
Our version 1 budget was put together entirely by Charles in terms of what it took to, get locations, rent equipment, get the right permitting, bring the right HODs on board. Charles was the guy because Charles, not just in terms of being an extra and being a, working actor, he, to pretty much keep the lights on, he worked his crew for a long time in his career. And that was just made him an amazing addition to the team because he was able to get a keen understanding of what it took to put this film together from a logistical point of view. Yeah. And that was just really fantastic to have him on board. And it's one of the great reasons he's also a producer of this film because he really gave us that ability to build a great, effectively behind the scenes of this potential picture. And like Pardeep said, he put together our budget, and that's just been great for us. And of course, Amreek was also great in terms of helping us to build this sense of realism in the film by giving us some great source material.
He knew where to find things that were difficult to find.
He was able to press the flesh.
Knows people that can make things happen.
Exactly.
And with his legal background, when it came to like contracts and that kind of thing, even in the early days, he was very good at that kind of thing. So you need these kind of people.
You do
for this kind of project.
These two amazing individuals brought some incredible skill sets to the project. When we needed to just get it going. So now that our team has been in place, our next port of call, or the next part of the story, took us to sitting down with our producer virtually. We did it via Zoom or Teams, because our producer, of course, is in London. He's a working film producer, so he's in London. So we had to mostly have a lot of our catch-ups via Teams or Zoom. So we had this session, and we decided that the next port of call was to go to the BFI. Now, I know we mentioned the BFI in the previous episode.
Yes, we have.
The next step in our story was to see if we could garner development funding from the BFI. Now, to give you a bit of context about that, what development funding means is, you apply for a grant from them for about £15,000, which is about, $18,000 to $20,000, to effectively garner, develop the film properly, put together a package film. And this is something the BFI grants, to filmmakers, either first time or aspiring or even some established creatives, to effectively package their films, develop it right, cast it, bring a director on board, get your treatment in place, get your script ironed out. And this was the grant we applied for with the BFI. So, Pardeep, do you want to talk a little bit about that process, about what we had to do to put together this application with the BFI for Shing number 7?
Yeah, so there was quite a lengthy application. And the application itself, there was a lot of boxes, let's say, that needed ticking. You needed to make sure that you had the requirements. Yeah. Because they have requirements in certain areas that you need to meet. Otherwise, you automatically you won't be successful.
Yeah.
It was a long process. Yeah. It was quite a long process, and I know that a lot of work went into it. I remember looking over it before it was submitted on both occasions.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very, very detailed. You need to be absolutely on board and have everything covered in these applications. And yeah, I remember it clearly. I remember sending it off, and I believe we waited for about 2 months to hear back.
Yeah, the application process, as Pardeep said, was exceedingly detailed. We all got involved in putting together that application process. I think I wrote several pages of our application process, so did our producer, and it was quite detailed because there were a lot of markers that you had to hit in terms of showcasing your diversity.
Yes, diversity was a huge one.
Diversity, inclusion, and community was massive.
If you apply for BFI funding, be sure to make sure that you've got that covered.
Yes.
There's a lot of areas in diversity that you need to...
And we're not talking a paragraph or two here. We're talking essay-long responses.
There was a whole section on diversity,
Yeah.
right, to make sure that you cover that area from.
Each one was a very detailed.
What were the other areas? There was some others. Was there health and safety?
Health and safety aspects, disability aspects. It was, also involving the community, the local community project. We had to tick a lot of boxes, and it was a very detailed application process. And we had to, and this was before ChatGPT, where you could just type in a word on ChatGPT and go, answer this question for me. No, this was before that. So we had to literally write detailed answers on every single one. We had to think about our responses, about what this film represented. And we felt that Sin Number 7 being a film set in Leicester, it was set in the Midlands. It featured a minority lead, a British Asian, and it was such a minority-led film.
It ticked a lot of boxes. Especially even the location thing, because one of the requirements, I wouldn't say a requirement, but they asked, is this filmed outside of the London area?
Yeah.
Because if it is, then that's another box that you tick.
Yeah.
And so that it's meant to work in your favor.
Yeah. So we were very confident about this application because we felt we ticked a lot of boxes. It was a minority-led film in terms of our lead character. It was a minority-led crew. In terms of our, the key HODs, heads of department, we already had involved. It was
Leicester, outside of London.
Outside the London area. It was going to be a community-led project. We were going to mostly work with mostly crew based here. And a lot of our cast was very diverse. So we thought we were in a great place. We also thought we had a great script.
Yeah.
But we also knew that this development funding would help us elevate the script, if you will, and refine it. So we thought we were in a really great place. And I know the fact that we're saying we thought sort of gives you an answer.
You kind of know where this is going.
It's a leading.
We thought a lot.
We thought a lot. These are leading conversations. So that's really where we were. We put together this application. It took us several days. It took us a couple of weeks, actually.
Yeah.
To put together this application.
To double check and make sure everything was
it's a significant amount of detail.
Probably, yeah.
And, it'll probably be on screen at the moment, just giving you a bit of background to what the BFI is. The BFI stands for the British Film Institute. They are pretty much, I want to say
one of the only ways in, if you're a new filmmaker and you want to get in.
They're government-sponsored organization. They're lottery funded. So the National Lottery here in the UK is one of the key sources of their funding.
Yeah.
And they effectively select a collection of filmmakers every year to grant funding to either develop their feature films, develop their short films, or even help them get into the film industry.
It's very few each year. I think you have to be quite lucky to be selected for this.
Just keeping in the fact that they're lottery funded, that just as they are lottery funded, it's a lottery to get. It's like
to actually get
funding and support from the BFI. And look, we have no hard feelings about that. We just we know that it's a very, very competitive process. We know that there are thousands of applicants to the BFI, a lot of aspiring would-be and potential filmmakers always applying to them on a daily basis. So they have a lot of tough decisions to make because there's only a few spots they can give. They can grant this funding for. There are a few projects they can do that for. So we basically put together this application for the BFI, and they've worked on a lot of great projects. And chances are, a lot of people watching or listening to this might have, seen a BFI funded project. You might just not know that. The logo usually appears at some part on the title card of the film just before it starts playing or in the trailer. So they've been involved in a lot of great projects. And so we applied with the BFI for development funding. And after several weeks of, this arduous application process, detailed questions, aimed at proving that our film just met specific criteria and standards. Drum roll, please. Our application was rejected. It was
both times.
Yes, we applied for development funding and, of course, I believe feature funding.
I think the second time we just went straight for it, and both times it was.
So we applied for initial development funding for a grant to develop the film further, and we also applied eventually after they rejected the development funding. We also applied to see if they could provide us with an initial budget to to get the feature film off the ground. Because if we could get some funding from the BFI, we felt that we could go to financiers and film investors and creative investors to say, look, the BFI is on board. They've given us an initial line of funding. Could you guys provide us with the remainder of our budget? So that was our plan after the initial rejection of the first application.
Yeah.
Both times it was ultimately a no from the BFI. And here's one thing a lot of people don't talk about, the standard of filmmaking in this country. The UK is seen as a microcosm of the film sector on a global scale. There are not a lot of British films that pretty much garner great global acclaim as much these days.
As much as the American...
And that's for obvious reasons. But what I really found interesting was that the British film sector, from a current perspective, has become a bit of a stepping stone for the American film sector. And I believe, from my point of view, that never used to be the case in the past. There were a lot of British films, a lot of British projects that stood on their own, really, in the sense that they were able to really garner their own following off the back of their own steam and garner a global audience because of that. And of course, you could think about films like Bend Like Beckham, Snatch, like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, like Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah.
And these are amazing British films that went on to garner a global following, and they were really standalone, great piece of artistic merit that just saw these films garner a following off the back of their own steam. But right now, these days, I tend to see that that standard has really skewed very much towards franchises. Only British films that are part of established IP or established universes tend to move the needle on the global stage.
Yeah.
If you think Harry Potter, if you think the James Bond franchise, and these days, the British film is trying to find itself, in my opinion, it's trying to find itself on a global stage. Because if you look at British TV, it's also very much convoluted because British projects usually have to be exceedingly outstanding to really go to really garner a global
to get that same attention.
Yeah. Then if you think about something recent like Baby Reindeer, which was this massive global viral phenomenon based on the story because it was based on a true harrowing true story that really gave it that strong hook, and that's really where British film is. And I think the BFI is in that crossroads themselves because they find themselves wanting to work with brand new and unheard and underrepresented filmmakers, but they also need to make films that could potentially garner
they know it's going to get views.
Exactly. A larger audience, so that they could get more funding from the government and the National Lottery. So it was a fine balance for them to strike, and that's really where they were. And we like to say that we were a little bit of a casualty of this whole process of trying to, find our way in this very crowded field. So that was it. And this was despite overtures from our producer, just trying to find out, if they could give us some feedback as to why the application was rejected.
Yeah, we didn't really get much to work with.
Yeah.
Feedback-wise, we were just kind of ignored.
Yeah.
That wasn't very nice.
It wasn't, but
would have been nice to know what we could have done to improve.
Yeah.
Kind of like a job interview.
Yeah.
Sometimes you ask, okay, where can I improve? And if they got the time, they'll come back to you and they'll say, okay, so you need to do this, this, and this.
Exactly.
With the BFI, we didn't get a response.
Yeah.
It wasn't really much feedback. It was just more of like, oh, you weren't successful.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then when we did ask for that feedback, to be like, okay, look, how can we improve for next time? We didn't get it.
Yeah. So we know it's hindsight is 2020. We know that, looking back on, applying with the BFI, we knew that it was going to be an uphill battle with them, but we felt we were in a great position just because of how diverse our film was, how culturally significant we felt our story could be, and how much our narrative and our plot could be such a lightning rod and a conversation starter. So we thought we had the potential to do well with the BFI. It ultimately wasn't the case. And initially, for me, we were, like Pardeep said, we were shocked and angry at the decision because, and I think for us, we sort of went through this whole 5 stages of grief where we were like, denial, bargaining. We went through it.
Yeah. Because we felt like we put the work in. We did everything that we felt like we needed to do to get the funding, but that's not the way this industry works.
No.
You could do everything, but it's the competition, isn't it? There's so many people trying to do the same
So
thing.
many amazing young or even older filmmakers.
Yeah, sometimes it just doesn't happen, and it's nothing to do with you. It's just that it's a crowded.
It is a crowded field. Like I said, the UK, size-wise, is like barely larger, or probably the same size as the state of Texas in the US. We are a small microcosm in a larger field, and that is always tough to stand out. We felt our story ticked a lot of boxes. Community-based film, diverse lead, diverse cast, diverse crew.
For those reasons, we thought we were almost guaranteed, but then we learned the hard way that it doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't work like that. And so it was tough. And the landscape of filmmakers, we could talk about, Pardeep, do you want to talk about a little bit about the landscape of filmmakers in the Midlands as a whole? In
the Midlands, I'd say it's very difficult.
Yeah.
There's not really much going on here, and if there is, there's a few things happening in Birmingham, I would say.
Yeah.
In terms of things like support, funding, that kind of thing, I think there used to be something.
There used to be a media hub here. I think the West Midlands Film Hub. I think that's what or the East Midlands. No, West Midlands.
It was West Midlands.
West Midlands.
And I don't think that's a thing anymore.
No.
All roads now lead to the BFI. As far as I'm aware. I mean, if anyone out there knows of anything in the Midlands, please get in contact with us and let us know, because we at the moment we've not heard of anything.
As far as we can tell, the West Midlands Film Hub, and just to give you more irony, we're based in the East Midlands.
So we were pretty much out.
And in fact, there was nothing in the East Midlands. So to give you context, map of the UK, the Midlands is sort of the middle part of the UK. That's why they call it the Midlands. And London is obviously the west of the UK or east of the UK, probably down there, the other direction.
London will be south and into the...
Yeah, London will be south, of the UK. And we're like in the Midlands, the middle of the country. That's why they call it the Midlands. And there's East Midlands, West Midlands, North Midlands and South Midlands. And we are in the East Midlands, and there is no film.
There was nothing.
There was no filmmaker, national filmmaker support here. There was one in the West Midlands. It was called the West Midlands Film Hub. It was supported by the BFI, and it was sort of their conduit to sort of a pipeline. It was sort of a branch of the BFI that sort of helped West Midlands filmmakers garner a pipeline to the BFI proper, which of course based in London. So that was sort of the hub they had there, but we were based in the East Midlands, so we couldn't
have done that anyway. But what I realized about going back to what it's like for filmmakers in the Midlands, you need to be prepared to kind of do things by yourself, financially, and especially financially, because from what we've realized, there's not really anywhere to go. Yeah. To get that funding, you can't just apply somewhere, especially local, get some money and make a project. We've had to pretty much finance all of our short films and our projects by ourselves, and that's just the way it is here. Yeah. And unfortunately, short of getting like a sponsorship deal with a local business, if you're lucky enough to do that.
Lucky enough to do that. Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, you'd be prepared to just finance it yourself. Yeah. And try to put a crew together. And make it yourself.
Yeah, metaphorically speaking, it's like a sparse wasteland and I mean that wasteland, by that I mean in terms of any sort of organizational support, filmmaking organizational support you could get. It's sparse. There's nothing. It's, imagine Terminator, post-apocalyptic Matrix or Terminator, that vast wasteland where there's like nothing and the Earth's been destroyed. Think about that in your head when you think about...
From a film perspective.
From a filmmaker's perspective, any support.
Well, I would say there's a lot going on. People are just doing it by themselves.
That's it. Yeah. That's all you got to do.
They're self-financing things.
Such a vibrant filmmaking scene here in the East Midlands. And we don't get a lot of clout. We're not the Birminghams or the Manchesters or or the Londons of this world. So we don't get a lot of like clout. But there's a film festival here. There's the Leicester Film Festival.
Yes, there is.
The Nottingham Film Festival.
Yeah.
They do make some incredible films, incredible filmmakers, and so there's a vibrant film scene here. But again, like everyone would say, there's a vibrant film scene everywhere. Almost every city or town or region, they all have their own viral.
It's true, and it's no different.
Exactly,
no different to here.
They're all trying to make it out there. They're all trying to garner a voice. They're all trying to garner a stage, and it is a detailed process, and it's the reason you find a lot of these aspiring filmmakers having to move to London, aspiring actors, directors, writers
to make it. Yeah,
they go to London because they know trying to make it from here
there's next to nothing.
It's so tough.
And one thing that I've realized, which I don't like, but we don't seem to be treated seriously. Like, as if we were from London and we were trying to do the same thing down there, I do honestly feel like, I'm not saying that we would have made it by now, but I'm just saying that we probably would have had a lot more connections, probably would have had a lot more going on.
Yeah.
I just don't think that being from Leicester has done us any favors in this space.
No.
To be honest.
No.
That's the way I feel.
I tend to agree. I think there's a very London-centric view when it comes to filmmaking in the UK. But, hey, you could say there's a very LA-centric view when it comes to filmmaking in the US.
Very true.
There's a very true. California-centric view when it comes to filmmaking in the US. And it could be the same thing for any other country. Probably in countries like India, it'll probably be New Delhi or Mumbai, where the big films get made. In Nigeria, you could probably say it's Lagos, where the big films get made. Same thing in countries like South Africa, where Johannesburg is the big filmmaking center.
And they say you have to go to where the action is. But I wanted to make it hit.
We feel the action is here because, and there's one thing.
It can be here.
Exactly.
What we're trying to say, it can be here.
It goes back to, it harkens back to how we genuinely feel about creativity as a whole, as a form of expression. Creative expression for me is stateless, borderless, and it should not be monopolized by the location that you are. Anyone can be creative. A kid could pick up a phone today from Kazakhstan and become globally known because
TikTok famous. That happens now.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's the social media that now happens.
There's this, feeling that we've always had from the film industry, the established film industry, both in the UK and abroad and beyond, that you have to be based in a certain locale to be taken seriously because that's where all the studios are, that's where all the gatekeepers and executives are. But we know that the internet has, if one thing, and the internet has proven a lot of things and illuminated a lot of things, either for good or for bad. What the internet has proven, and what I dare say, streaming has proven,
Netflix
streaming has proven, is that anything could be seen, anything could garner an audience, anything that's seen as truly creative could really garner an audience. A great example is this TV series Squid Game. Where it's based in South Korea. None of the characters are speaking English, and the story was so creative and fascinating, and
as just something different,
completely different from a different part of the world, and people loved it. Yeah. Creativity should be bound, should be borderless, and it should not be. You should not be trying to garner an audience for your work just because. Just be based on where you're looking.
Where you're faced.
Because thanks to the internet, and everyone can say a lot of things about the internet, and we all know that what the internet has done. The internet has ended democracies and caused untold misery in the world. But the internet has also a force for proving certain inalienable rights that creativity should be a product of the world. You should not have to move to the Londons and the LAs of this world to garner to be giving a chance to really get your story told and get your creative output.
And this is where I think you got to give a lot of credit to Netflix.
Yes.
Because I believe they were the ones to do it first.
Yes.
They took chances with projects where there was no stars, the story was completely different, no one knew literally anybody in these things, and they went on to do really well.
Exactly.
Multiple times Netflix did that, and I think that's the reason why they're where they are today.
We hope that's part of a trend. And you're seeing articles all the time about the fact that, a lot of these streamers are starting to recognize that it's not just about star power. And I know it's great. I'd watch a Gal Gadot movie or a Dwayne The Rock Johnson movie anytime, but star power is not the number one factor right now that drives great stories. Again, going back to the show Baby Reindeer, did not have a single recognizable face in that. Richard Gadd, probably did some off-the-cuff stuff on Dave and some comedy circuits, but he wasn't a well-known superstar before that show became a global phenomenon.
I think it's all about new ideas now.
It's all about
something different, something fresh.
Exactly.
Because that's what was missing from the mainstream until streaming came along.
Exactly, and streaming has changed that. And, and we'll get into our journey with streaming very soon in subsequent episodes. But that's just really where we were, and that's where we've been in that story. And so this is nothing against the BFI, nothing against the British film.
The more traditional.
We've always just, we're always of the mindset that, we're showcasing boundless energy and we're showcasing boundless drive to try and get this story to a certain place. So, for us, with the first step in our journey basically barely taken, we were hit with this setback. And we felt like the rug was pulled out from under us, and there were not a lot of alternatives, as we've explained.
This is the thing. I think that's one of the reasons why we were so upset by it, because we realized, okay, now without this, what do we do now?
Yeah.
It was one of those situations. Like, okay, well, now what do we do?
Yeah. So we've given you a bit of a background of our foundation, sort of built our whole team for you at this point in our journey. And we've told you about the next step. We went to the BFI. We applied for funding over a couple months, maybe 2-3 months. That process took for us to
I think we spent a total of 6 months making the applications, then waiting for a response. And then, both times put together everything about 6 months.
Yeah, so 3 months applying and another 3 to 4.
It takes about 6 to 8 weeks for them to get back to you. The first time we did it over December, so it was even longer because of Christmas.
Because of Christmas. So they had to take a Christmas break. So the whole thing took about 6-7 months-ish for us to package 2 applications with the BFI. So if anybody, just like Pardeep said,
that's the time frame.
It's not a quick
It's not quick. No.
They're not going to get back to you tomorrow or next week. It's a long process. And that's just because these guys go through thousands of applications every single day. So there's that backlog. Imagine the big studio where, you got the producer with a pile of scripts all over his office. And I'm guessing, it's digital now, so it's all on computers. But that's really what they've got to work with.
Yeah.
So that's how long the process takes. So we felt this was a huge setback. And for any other endeavor and for any other people, for any other group of people, this could probably have been the end of the line.
That could have been it.
We could have said, you know what? The BFI said no. They're the only shot out there. They're the only game in town. Maybe we should just call this. But for us, the pull of this film it called to us. Pardeep, could you explain that fire, that call that just really stuck with us?
Well, yeah, from the beginning, it's like I really wanted to tell the story. We as a team really wanted to tell this story, and mixed with our stubbornness, we don't like hearing no, and we don't accept no for an answer. We keep going. We keep trying to find a solution. I think when you put all of that together with our passion for this, we knew we were going to have to find another way. As difficult as it is, we knew we were going to have to find a completely different way to go about this and to make it happen. Yeah,
this was a calling for me, and I think for all of us, that it was a call to action for us. And we just knew that this story resonated with all of us so much.
You know what it proved?
Yeah.
It proved why I think it's less than 1% make it.
Yeah.
In this industry, in terms of especially actors.
Yeah.
When you talk about the actors who have made it, less than 1%. And this is one of the reasons why it's this difficult.
It's such a tough task. And we felt that our story wasn't done. Our journey wasn't done. And harkening back to the name of our show, we just had to keep going. We had to keep pushing. And so we decided, just to give you a preview of the next episode, that we were going to develop this film on our own, without BFI funding, and we were going to package this film pretty much out of our own pockets, no matter what it took. No matter how much sacrifices we were going to make, we were going to put this together and try and garner this film.
And I've got to say, before we wrap this up, without the producer that we mentioned in the last episode, this would not have been possible.
Nope, not even close. So we're going to give you more detail about what it took to package this film ourselves and put together all the elements on our own and get this film through its development cycle in the next episode. And we'll go into detail about that. So, and that we had to have champions to really help us and work with us to get us where we needed to be. But this is the next part of the story. We decided we're going to go it alone. We're going to hit the open road and we're going to see where destiny takes us. And that's where we're going to leave it for now. And we hope you enjoyed listening to another step, another rung in the ladder of this amazing...
our journey, of our story, which is yet to be concluded.
Yet to be concluded, and we're still going. And thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yep, thank you again.